This stop is Confant Avenue and West 129th Street. Next stop, Morningside Avenue and West 125th Street. This stop is Morningside Avenue and West 125th Street. Next stop, West 125th Street and Amsterdam Avenue. Transfers available to M11, M60 SBS, M100, M101, M101 Limited and M125. This stop is West 125th Street and Amsterdam Avenue. Next stop, West 125th Street and Old Broadway. This stop is West 125th Street and Old Broadway. Next stop, Broadway and Tiemann Place. This stop is Broadway and Tiemann Place. Next stop, Broadway and LaSalle Street. This stop is Broadway and LaSalle Street. Next stop, Broadway and West 122nd Street. This stop is Broadway and West 122nd Street. Next stop, Broadway and West 120th Street. This stop is Broadway and West 120th Street. Next stop, Broadway and West 116th Street. This stop is Broadway and West 116th Street. Next stop, Broadway and West 114th Street. This stop is Broadway and West 114th Street. Next stop, Broadway and West 112th Street. This stop is Broadway and West 112th Street. Next stop, Broadway and Cathedral Parkway. Transfers available to M4 and M4 Limited. This stop is Broadway and Cathedral Parkway. Next stop, Broadway and West 108th Street. This stop is Broadway and West 108th Street. Next stop, Broadway and West 106th Street. Transfers available to the 1 train, M60 SBS and M116. This stop is Broadway and West 106th Street. Next stop, Broadway and West 104th Street. This stop is Broadway and West 104th Street. Next stop, Broadway and West 102nd Street. This stop is Broadway and West 102nd Street. Next stop, Broadway and West 100th Street. This stop is Broadway and West 100th Street. Next stop, Broadway and West 97th Street. Transfers available to the 1 train and M96. This stop is Broadway and West 97th Street. Next stop, Broadway and West 94th Street. This stop is Broadway and West 94th Street. Next stop, Broadway and West 92nd Street. This stop is Broadway and West 92nd Street. Next stop, Broadway and West 89th Street. This stop is Broadway and West 89th Street. Next stop, Broadway and West 86th Street. Transfers available to the 1 train and M86 SBS. This stop is Broadway and West 86th Street. Next stop, Broadway and West 84th Street. This stop is Broadway and West 84th Street. Next stop, Broadway and West 82nd Street. This stop is Broadway and West 82nd Street. Next stop, Broadway and West 79th Street. Transfers available to the 1 train and M79 SBS. This stop is Broadway and West 79th Street. Next stop, Broadway and West 76th Street. This stop is Broadway and West 76th Street. Next stop, Broadway and West 74th Street. This stop is Broadway and West 74th Street. Next stop, Broadway and West 72nd Street. Transfers available to the 1 train and M72. This stop is Broadway and West 72nd Street. Next stop, Broadway and West 70th Street. This stop is Broadway and West 70th Street. Next stop, Broadway and West 68th Street. This stop is Broadway and West 68th Street. Next stop, Broadway and West 65th Street. This stop is Broadway and West 65th Street. Next stop, Broadway and West 63rd Street. This stop is Broadway and West 63rd Street. Next stop, Broadway and West 61st Street. Transfers available to M5, M5 Limited, M7, M10 and M20. This stop is Broadway and West 61st Street. Next stop, Columbus Circle and 8th Avenue. Transfers available to the 1, A, B, C and D trains, M5, M5 Limited, M7, M10 and M20. This stop is Columbus Circle and 8th Avenue. Next stop, Central Park South and Columbus Circle. This stop is Central Park South and Columbus Circle. Next stop, 7th Avenue and West 58th Street. Transfers available to M57 and M31. This stop is 7th Avenue and West 58th Street. Next stop, 7th Avenue and West 54th Street. This stop is 7th Avenue and West 54th Street. Next stop, 7th Avenue and West 53rd Street. Transfers available to the B, D and D trains. This stop is 7th Avenue and West 53rd Street. Next stop, 7th Avenue and West 50th Street. Transfers available to the 1 train and M50. This stop is 7th Avenue and West 50th Street. Next stop, 7th Avenue and West 44th Street. This stop is 7th Avenue and West 44th Street. Next stop, 7th Avenue and West 41st Street. This stop is 7th Avenue and West 41st Street. Next stop, West 41st Street and 8th Avenue. Transfers available to the 1, 2, 3, 7, A, C, E, N, Q, R, W and S trains. Port Authority Bus Terminal, M7, M20, M34 ASBS, M42, SIM8, SIM8X, SIM22, SIM25, SIM26 and SIM30. This stop is West 41st Street and 8th Avenue. This is M104 to 41st Street. A fare is required to ride.